Warning: the opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
Broadcasting from the land of 10,000 lakes, this is Red Herring Radio. Thanks for joining us. I am Rick the Ninja for Red Herring Radio, joined in studio tonight with Wally, Danger, Walberg, the Natrix, tonight's special guest, Just-Levi, and as always, our host, B-Dizzle. Dizzle, what do you got for us?
Thank you very much, Ninja, and thank you everyone for joining us here on Red Herring Radio, our special Halloween edition. Well, tonight we got a great show. First, I'm going to go around the room, say hi to everyone. As always, we start with Danger. Danger, how you doing?
I'm feeling dangerous.
More dangerous than normal, or what are we dealing with here?
Dangerous.
Just dangerous. All right, we can leave it at that. We can leave it at that. I normally ask Danger how his week was going.
It was the huge.
It was the huge. Thank you. I didn't want to have to prod it out of you, but we got it.
Huge, man.
All right.
I got so much going on. What can I say?
We know he still has the Magic, the Gathering tournament coming up here. So we wish him all the luck with that. Now we'll kick it over to Ninja. Ninja, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, pretty good. You know, the same old boring crap.
Boring crap. Boring crap. You mean work?
Yeah, mostly that.
Well, we all hate work.
I don't hate my job. It's just not typically exciting. I stand there and watch, water, or I fix things.
What about that time that you got kidnapped by the Skarklax?
That was, we got into that. Anyone who wants to go into that story, I believe it was episode 3 of Red Herring Radio.
Episode 4.
Episode 4, okay. So it was episode 4 of Red Herring Radio. It's a long story, so go back and listen to that if you want the story of how I was kidnapped on the job. But aside from that, just we're doing blowouts. Winter's coming.
Would you say that was your least boring day of work ever?
Well, there was that one time we dug up, like, a barrel full of dirt. That was kind of cool.
We'll get into that another day. But for now,
it's a good story.
No, but for now, we're gonna go to Natrix. Natrix, thanks for joining us, bud. How are you doing?
Yeah, things are going great.
Really? I heard you killed a mouse.
Nah.
No, it was your dad, right? It was your dad.
Why?
Well, I try to take an interest in my friends' lives, but I will note that.
Oh, man!
All right, thanks, Natrix. And finally, our special guest for the evening, my good friend, Just-Levi. Just-Levi, how you doing, bud?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on tonight. It's a rare treat.
Don't be ridiculous.
All right, well, thank you, Just-Levi, for joining us here tonight. Ninja, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
Hey, well, tonight we'll be talking a little bit about our favorite Halloween and horror-themed movies, so we are dubbing them Horrorween movies. And after that, we'll be stopping by the old Philosopher's Corner to discuss a little dangerous philosophy with our friend Wally, Danger, Walberg. Then we'll be moving on to discussing a little bit of origin stories of our favorite Halloween monsters. And then we're going to have a new segment, our 5 minutes with
Just-Levi.
I wanted to just throw this out to the general public. we all hear a lot here at Halloween. This is just a public service announcement from Dizzle. I don't want anyone to go out there fearing for poison or razor blades or things of that nature in the candy. I know it's a good idea for parents to check their children's candy before they get to dig into it. But all of the stories you hear, or the urban legends as I like to call them, are just that. There have been a couple of cases where children have died or somebody has been injured around Halloween or under circumstances that would make you think that the candy had something to do with it. But those were shown to really have nothing to do with it. You can check into that a little bit if you want. I will have a link in the description below with a little more information about that. Just go out, have fun, and be safe. And that is your public service announcement from Red Herring Radio.
Unless you want to come to my house, because I can offer you either or. Like, I can give you safe candy, or I can give you dangerous stuff.
All right, to start things off here on the show tonight, I had the idea of talking about our favorite horror movies and horror movie monsters, and I'm going to go around the room and we're just going to talk about some of those things. So I'm going to start off with Ninja. Ninja, I talked to you a little bit about this earlier today, and we both agreed. So when you think back to your childhood, what's the horror movie that you think of when somebody mentions horror movies?
That would be A Nightmare on Elm Street. Freddy has always been the scarier horror villain to me because all the other scary movie monsters and villains, that they all existed in the physical realm, and despite the fact that you had a very slim chance, there was always the hope that you could get away. Freddy, he tortured you with that hope.
So I just want to say a little bit about Freddy from my perspective. Out of all the horror movies when I was little, that was the one that really got to me. Because like Ninja said, you can't run from Freddy. He can get you. All the other monsters you can get away from. You know, it might be a slim chance you have to get away from them, but you could. Freddy, all you had to do was sleep, and everyone had to sleep. And with that, I'll kick it over to Danger. Danger, what horror movies come to your mind when you think of them?
So immediately it comes to mind, I can't even remember the exact one, but it was sometime in middle school, and it was this movie where a serial killer buried people alive, and it gave me the phobia of being buried alive. But I was like so scared by it that after that I had to really convince myself that it just all was not true, and then I had no effect from pretty much any horror movies from that point on, and it just totally turned me off to them in a way.
So are you saying that movie scared you so much that it desensitized you to all other horror movies?
It played a part in that, and then so from that point, you know, other movies. What was the one where the house, the Amityville Horror, where the house goes crazy and like the person loses their hand in the food blender, or the
I believe that's the Amityville Horror.
Yeah,
when the
so
dad
like,
goes crazy.
Yeah, that one. So just a couple movies like that scared me so much when I was younger that I had to just completely disbelieve all of it. And now when I see this stuff, I'm not able to suspend my disbelief, that I'm just like, oh, whatever, this is just a thing. So the only time a movie could really be scary to me is when something like jumps out at you or something. It might surprise me.
The startle scare, not the tension scare.
Yeah, but to a point, I will admit that, you know, there is tension in movies for me. It's not like I'm completely immune to that, but I just have a harder time getting into horror movies. I will say that I'm such a huge fan of Rob Zombie that I love House of a Thousand Corpses and The Devil's Rejects.
Yeah, but that's just because, what is that, the bald guy that sells the chicken, he was funny as shit.
Yeah, he's reluctant to sell them a chicken because he thinks that they're going to try to have sex with the chicken. He's like, if I sell you this chicken, you're not going to have sex with it, are you? Except I'm sure he uses more vulgar language than that.
All right, Just-Levi, what do you think?
Child's Play comes to mind. It was Chucky. Always got it for me. It was the fact that something so wholesome as just like a child's toy could come to life and just murder the shit out of you. It's unbelievable. My grandmother had so many scary porcelain dolls, and they were just hanging up all over the place. Whenever I'd go walking by it, I'd be like, now, that one's coming alive, and that one's going to be the one. If that doll kills me...
Even before Freddy came into my mind and scared the living crap out of me and kept me... Well, I never saw the
Chucky.
movie,
It was
but I
terrible.
do remember seeing the trailers for it on TV, and that alone being enough to, like, make me afraid to walk down the hallway at night.
I think the trailer might be even scarier for a kid, because the trailers, they cut out, like, some of the scariest bits, and they put them out of context. So, like, a little kid just seeing a bunch of the out-of-context scariest bits. Because Chucky with his contorted face was creepy as hell.
No, it always scared the hell out of me. And I grew up in a rather poor family, and after, like, seeing all of that happen, when my mom would buy me toys from the thrift store, I would second-guess all of them.
Natrix, what would you say when you think of horror movies? What comes to mind first? I remember seeing Poltergeist when I was, I don't even remember how old I was, but it scared the living crap out of me because it had that little girl in it and the things coming out of the TV, and I love the TV. I loved the TV when I was little, and that movie made me afraid of it.
That little girl talking all kinds of shit, including sexual talk to the priest, that fucked with me when I was a little kid. That scared me.
That was The Exorcist, dude, not the Poltergeist. You're, like,
Oh,
you're really off on that.
sweet. Alright, so you got me.
Can we talk about Michael Myers here? Like, how is it possible that this serial killer, murderous horror guy is also hilarious and has
Different guy.
awesome powers?
One's Canadian, one's psychopath. I guess, well,
Why did you have to ruin this
because
for him?
that's what I do. That's what I'm known for.
So, Dizzle, what is your first movie that comes to mind when you think of horror movies and being a kid and being scared shitless?
Well, typically it would be Nightmare on Elm Street, but we already discussed that. So I will go to the next one, and it's actually rather convenient that this just came up, but it would be The Exorcist. I remember watching The Exorcist when I was younger, and I literally, even though I would say Freddy Krueger and The Nightmare on Elm Street scared me more overall over a greater period of time, The Exorcist was the only scary movie that I actually could not watch the whole thing. I turned it off and I was like, I need to wait till daytime, till daylight. Daylight is the only thing that can protect me from this movie. So I turned it off. Yeah, I'm a chicken shit. Whatever. I don't even remember how old I was, but it scared the living crap. When the little girl starts stabbing herself in the groin with the cross, saying some pretty
Fucked up shit.
yeah, well, yeah, so that's what I think of when I think of, like, truly scary.
The motherfucker are you doing?
When I think of truly scary horror movies, that's what I think of.
That's a good call.
All right, and as we round that corner of the show, we will turn to Danger for Dangerous Philosophy. Danger, what do you got for us?
So last time on Dangerous Philosophy, we talked about Plato's Cave, which established skepticism in some ways, as far as we can doubt our existence and we can wonder if what we're perceiving reality is it any more than the shadows that were observed on the cave wall. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out last week's segment. Anyways, moving on to today's topic, it is what is known as Cogito Ergo Sum, and it has its origins from René Descartes. We're in the 17th century now, where René Descartes was in France trying to find a way to respond to these skeptics. Everybody was saying, well, how can we be sure of this? How can we be sure of that? Specifically, a lot of people were saying, how can we be sure of the existence of God? And so that's what Descartes was trying to prove. And so he decided that he had to put himself in the position of doubt before he could establish any base or foundation for knowledge. And what he came up with was that it could be possible that our entire experience is at the result or the hands of some sort of evil deceiver who, as if they're controlling our dreams or our experience, are making it so that what we perceive is different than from what is actually reality. However, what he concluded was that we can take from this that we do in fact exist, because in order to be deceived and in order to doubt that deceit, there must be a consciousness that is perceiving that, there must be a consciousness that is being deceived. Therefore, he said, I think, I am, translated into Latin, is cogito ergo sum. Cogito meaning cognition and thinking and things like that. Ergo meaning therefore. Sum meaning, when you add stuff together or something. And existence. So anyways, that is where Cogito Ergo Sum comes from. Boom.
That's some more deep stuff there, Danger.
It's dangerous to think about. You got to be careful.
I don't know that it's dangerous to think about, but it's definitely something that a lot of people, I think, take for granted. It's like one of the defining traits of humanity is to see things, question it, because really that's the basis of learning, is to question. Because when we question things, we seek out the knowledge that is like the foundation of the scientific method.
That's weird. I thought it was all about cardinal pleasures. Boy, have I been reading it wrong. Or right.
But no, I think there's a lot to be learned from this, because truly that is the only thing you can truly know, is that you are thinking, that you are knowing, that you are experiencing something.
Here's the interesting thing. The most pure of skeptics will tell you that you cannot even be certain of this fact, and that doubt can go beyond even that your doubt of existence proves your existence. You could still be a thinking thing and not really be real. But at that point, it's kind of like, what does it really mean
To be real?
So you're kind of weakening what that is. It's hard to say. What's ironic, though, about Descartes is that he set out to try to disprove the skeptics, and he sort of made skepticism more famous. So there's a little bit of irony there.
Am I here?
Makes sense. He did something right, at least to put himself inside of textbooks that college students will read as they travel through on their educational path, which is sad for all of us. They get to think, too. That's cool. I get to think. Everybody gets to think.
The nerd in me thinks back to Star Trek The Next Generation, and if anyone knew that show fairly well, there's an episode where one of the recurring villains on the show, a holographic projection of a Sherlock Holmes villain, Moriarty, comes to life in the sense that he becomes self-aware, and he tricks the crew of the Enterprise by walking off the holodeck. He doesn't really do it. Watch the episode if you're really interested in all the fine details. But essentially he tricks them by saying, "I think, therefore I am," and he walks off the holodeck. Well, on that show he should have dematerialized and disappeared, but since he was conscious and he knew of his existence, it secured himself in the real world, or at least that's what he made them believe.
Yeah, that also big fan of Star Trek and The Next Generation.
God bless you, Gene Roddenberry.
Yes, all hail the great Roddenberry. And that was just a fantastic episode. And that's just all I have to say about that. Just fan service to Star Trek. Woo!
Trekkie for life.
I don't know. I kind of felt like battling you on wits until you mentioned Star Trek, and now I'm just on your side, bud.
Well, I have that effect on people.
It's a smile.
I don't know if it was you or so much the Star Trek. I mean,
it really diffused the whole situation.
Well, we can give Star Trek the credit on this one. And with that, we're going to take a short break. When we get back, what are we going to be discussing, Ninja?
All right, when we get back from the break, we'll be talking about some of our favorite monsters and their myths and origin stories. And then after that, we'll be heading over to our new segment with our special guest,
Just-Levi.
All that and more on Red Herring Radio. Hi there everyone, this is Rick the Ninja from Red Herring Radio, here to talk to you about city water. Man, living out on the farm was tough. Hard water, spots on my dishes, bad showers, it was terrible. But then, Noah Turquoise Jackson changed my life with this revolutionary system, delivering barrels, flasks, and bottles of fresh water to my door. That is crisp and so convenient. So if you need some city water, call today at 555-12345. Is that right, guys? Oh, all right. Or you can order by mail. Please send carrier pigeons courtesy of Noah Turquoise Jackson to the Ozark Mountains of Kentucky.
All right, so order some city water today.
Warning. The opinions shared on this show are those of free-thinking individuals who, without payment or coercion, chose to be here and share those opinions with the world. This podcast may contain language, opinions, and ideas some people may find offensive and or controversial. Listener discretion is advised.
Broadcasting from the land of 10,000 lakes, welcome back to Red Herring Radio. Alright, welcome back everyone, this is Rick the Ninja. Dizzle, we're talking about Halloween monsters. What have you got for us?
Well, we're going to start off here on a second segment of the show tonight, and we're going to be discussing witches. We're on the Wikipedia page for witchcraft. Witchcraft, also called witchery or spellcraft, broadly means the practice of and belief in magical skills and abilities that are able to be exercised individually. This dates back to actual Wiccan belief and the worship of nature, the different seasons and things like that. The concept of witchcraft and belief in its existence has existed since the dawn of humanity.
I think that's just one of like the humans' false attribution of unexplainable things.
Well, right, a lot of the things that we couldn't
Comprehend, let's say.
Yeah, exactly. The things we couldn't comprehend, like what lightning was, or what fire was, or all those things were attributed to witchcraft. You know, most of us have probably heard about the Salem witch hunts that happened, and that was based around a lot of misfortune and things like that. It was easy to cast stones, you know. What's the word I'm looking for? Scapegoats. It was easy to find scapegoats in those women because they would have ridiculous tests for them, like, if we throw you off this cliff, you'll either fly because you're a witch, or you'll die like a good Christian person would.
Yes, or dropped into the freezing cold water, and if you didn't freeze to death, that meant you were a humble person of God and you would go to heaven. Or if you lived after being frozen to death, you were a witch, in which case they would burn you again. So you get both sides of it. You're like a hot pocket.
You're right. The tests were ridiculous.
The one I liked is when they would put them in the water, and of course women, good women didn't swim back then. So if you were a good Christian woman, you'd drown, and of course if you were a witch, you'd swim, and then of course, so you'd die or you'd swim, and then if you managed to swim, you'd just be hung anyway or burned at the stake. We found a witch. May we burn her? Well, how do you know she's a witch? She looks like one. Well, they dressed me this way. Well, did you? Well, we did do the nose. And the hat. But she is a witch. She turned me into a newt. A newt? Got better. So how do you know she's a witch? Okay, well, you put her in the water. Okay, well, what else floats in water? A duck. Aha, so if she weighs the same as a duck, then she's made of wood. And then if she's made of wood, we can burn her. And then she's a witch! Yeah! And then they weigh her on the duck. I fucked that up really bad.
Yeah, that's pretty bad, but that's okay. Long story short, they weigh her up with a duck, and she is lighter than a duck, so they burn her, and everyone's happy.
I fucked it up. Welcome to Mouse, Bat, Follicle, Goose Creature, Ampersand, Spawn, Web, Cavil, Loose Lips, and Best Prank.
Oh my god.
Whoa.
Alright, so check this out. We are now back in Red Herring Radio, bringing you B-Dizzle with new topics.
Where are we? Where I'm confused. It's dark and it's cold and there are wolves after me.
I really appreciate your honesty.
Well, they're probably actually werewolves, which is our next monster that we're going to be talking about here. A werewolf, also known as a lycanthrope.
Lycanthrope.
It's lycanthrope.
See? I think we all have a different way of saying it.
Yeah.
Lycanthrope.
Lycanthrope.
I'm with Walberg here.
It's lycanthrope.
The werewolf is a widespread concept in European folk. The werewolf is a widespread concept in European folklore, existing in many variants which are related by a common development of a Christian interpretation of underlying Indo-European mythology which developed during the medieval period. And this is coming from the Wikipedia of werewolves. So now there's, we all know werewolves, many movies, based around the werewolf. You have Underworld. I hesitated to bring that one up because it just makes me think of Kate Beckinsale in tight leather, and that could just derail this whole show.
That's cool. I didn't even need that movie in order to think of her in tight leather.
All right, like the witchcraft trials as a whole, the trial of supposed werewolves emerged in what is now Switzerland. So they had trials for suspected werewolves like they did witches. The same type of crazy tests were administered.
I would like this. I like this a lot, really. I mean, this really brings all of, just great hatred from the early periods into a more PC thing. Like, we had the witch hunt going on, which seemed a little sexist. I felt sore on that because it seemed like women, they had the highlight. They were sought after, they were murdered, like they got it all. But now werewolves, they could be anybody. Men could be werewolves. Women could be werewolves too, I guess. Slightly more attractive werewolves, probably.
Well, often people were not only accused of being werewolves or werewolfery, as it is. Yes. They were also accused of wolf riding or wolf charming. There's a famous case here on the Wikipedia page talking about a man named Peter Stump in 1589. It led to a significant peak in both interest and persecution of supposed werewolves, primarily in French-speaking and German-speaking Europe. The phenomenon persisted longest in Bavaria and Austria, with persecution of wolf charmers recorded until well after 1650. I'm not sure if this has actual origins in something real. Maybe it was some kind of, what were they called? The Gauls from ancient Rome, the barbarian people. Maybe there was a tribe of them that were known for wearing wolf heads on their heads when they went into battle or something like that.
Well, Dizzle, I happen to have a small bit of nerd knowledge from a Dungeons & Dragons historical supplement. There was, and I believe it's French historically, and I'm terrible with French words. It's like a loup de something or other, whatever their word for wolf is. And historically they were men who could take the skins of wolves and they wore them around, and then the mystical powers, the mysticism around them, and they started getting the reputation of being able to change into the wolves that they were wearing the skins of.
I disagree with you both entirely. I think it was just a really good way to get rid of your neighbor. Just accuse him. Be like, oh, he's a werewolf, or oh, she's a witch. I saw him last night. They were out back dancing under the moonlight, preaching to the gods and deities. That was something farm pagan.
It's interesting that you bring it up because that would totally happen during the Salem witch trials.
Well, I'm sure that happened quite often. People were falsely accused of something because somebody didn't like them.
And then just to juxtapose that to a more modern frame, during the communism hunt in the 1940s and 50s, people did that, accused your rivals of communism to cause them trouble or perhaps get rid of them.
Had to bring communism into witch hunts, huh?
It was a witch hunt in itself to point the finger like that and stuff.
So moving on here, our next and final monster we'll be discussing and its origins would be vampires. That would be probably the most widespread, well-known, mythical type of monster creature. I'm sure everybody has a soft spot in their heart for these wretched beasts.
Bram Stoker brought it on for me. Bram Stoker's Dracula.
I just want to point out to...
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to point out to Levi that it's Bram Stoker.
You know what? Thank you for correcting me on something that has only influenced my life for forever. I feel more complete and wholesome altogether and around.
You know me, I love to rain on your parade.
All right, we're on the Wikipedia page for vampires here. And at the top of the page here, a vampire is a mythical being who subsists by feeding on the life essence of a living creature. In folkloric tales, undead vampires often visited loved ones and caused mischief or deaths in the neighborhoods they inhabited when they were alive. They wore shrouds and were often described as bloated and of ruddy or dark countenance, markedly different from today's gaunt, pale vampires, which date from the early 1800s. All right, and then, we look at pop culture. Twilight, where they twinkle in the sunlight. When I saw that for the first time, it kind of made me want to puke, because one of my favorite movies, and I never really considered it like a horror movie, so I didn't talk about it earlier, but is The Lost Boys. 1986, I believe Lost Boys is from. Maybe it's 1987.
Not bad.
It is wonderful. It's one of the greatest movies from the 80s, one of the greatest vampire movies.
What's that song they play over and over in that movie?
Cry, little sister.
Thou shalt not fall.
Oh, with your brother.
No, that was all it.
All right. Yeah, so that's what I think of when I think of a vampire, is those type of vampires.
I just want to point out that that's about the same time, because it was really around when Anne Rice was releasing her vampire novels.
Interview with a Vampire?
That was based on one of the novels, but those novels were actually released, I can't quote the exact date, but up to like 10 years before that movie was even made. But she was really the driving force behind the sexification of vampires in pop culture, which ultimately led to shit like Twilight happening.
I don't even, for a second, even think of Anne Rice when I think of Twilight.
No, well, it's far removed, but that was like the beginning. It did made vampires a sex symbol as opposed to a monster, and then it softened them to the point, it built into that. Like, it opened the door for that to become a possibility. There's a criticism that was thrown at Twilight's author that the character of Bella was basically a Mary Sue, and that the entire series was just her fantasy about like a super sexy vampire romancing her up, and she just basically laid out all of her own relationship problem psychoses, because I think you've probably all seen the bits where their relationship meets all the criterias of an emotionally abusive relationship. So Bella's a Mary Sue. It's her sick little twisted vampire fantasy.
Well, vampires haven't just influenced cinema. They've also touched video games.
Yeah, let's go on a highlight here instead of all this emotional vampire stuff. How about we just go into a good old-fashioned vampire killing deal, such as what took place on September 26, 1986, the very same year that I was born, in fact. The game Castlevania came out, featuring the hero Richard to fight Dracula, stowing on huge and epic battles.
It was a great game. I preferred
Symphony of the Night, the one on PlayStation?
Symphony of the Night, where you played as the vampire.
Alucard, which is Dracula backwards, who turns out to be Dracula's son, M. Night Shyamalan's twist.
Yes, it was one hell of a twist, but...
Spoiler alert there.
Yeah, for anybody who hasn't played it, you're welcome.
Well, if you were looking for a spoiler, it's like 20 years later. 20 years later, and I spoiled it for you? Come on.
Some people might not get around to it.
My favorite vampire video game series was Soul Reaver.
I remember playing a vampire video game that was kind of like Myst, where you walked around and clicked on stuff, but it was like some sort of murder mystery thing that had a vampire setting. Huh.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I'm pretty sure that was just one of those fine and fold books where you read the page and
that
then
was like choose your own
turn
adventure.
to it. Yeah, take your own passage.
A lot of the vampire mythology springs from a figure known as Cain, who would be known as the son of Adam and Eve.
Cain and Abel.
And yes, Cain and Abel were the first two offspring of Adam and Eve, and Cain was the first human being to commit murder, and thusly he was cursed by God to, have this curse of Cain. And that's what vampirism is a curse of Cain, or as the legend goes. Some other legends also point to Lilith actually being the progenitor of vampirism, but more point to Cain. There's some origins that point to Judas because he betrayed Jesus for silver, and that's why vampires are allergic to silver. And he hung himself at sunset. That's why they are allergic to sunlight. So there are some correlations there that would draw lines between those two stories. But
it all pretty much boils down to God cursing someone to be a vampire. So I'd like to thank you God for vampires and for those blessed movies Twilight.
We're not going to disown Just-Levi just yet. Well, this would be the point in the show where we will turn to our special guest for his special segment, 5 Minutes with
Just-Levi. Check it out.
Derp. Derpity derp derp derp. Derp derp 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 derp.
How are you all doing today? This is Just-Levi, giving you a little helpful reminder. All I want you to be is a people person. So I'm going to tell you one very easy and simple way to become one of the best people persons that you can be. Step 1, and pretty much the only rule that you ever have to do in order to become a people person. Lie. All the time. Just do it. Whatever they say, I know it's stupid. I know whatever it's, I know. I hear it too. But just agree with them. Tell them they're smart. Everything will go well. Smile. Your face will be just fine. One little thing that I've been doing too is like when you come across, I've been telling people that I've been writing a book. Like, I'm not really writing a book, and I have no intentions of writing a book, but it just makes people think a little bit more of me when they hear about me, or like when it passes along again. And they're like, oh, did you hear about Levi? He's writing a book. And it's true, too, and I like to drop little subtle hints all around. Like, when I witness something that is really cool and awesome taking place, I like to mention out loud. I'd be like, oh, this will be good for my book. But I know full well that I'm not going to write it down in my book, though if I was going to be writing this book, that might be a really good thing for me to write down in my book. So it's not like I'm really honestly lying in the first place, because theoretically my book would have some pretty cool stuff in it, because I've seen it, but I've been telling all these people for so long that I've been writing this book that I'm really not really doing. After that, now, I would honestly say just like point out straight and obvious things now. Just be like, oh, hey, mammoths are like the most humble of elephants. Like, that's the thing that will really get people, because when they ponder it, they'll just be like, oh, that seems so absurd. Why would he be saying this? But when you think that a mammoth is completely and fully clothed as to today's, like, just grotesque elephant, I don't know, it's really big. It's not modest. Everything's naked on it. You can see everything. It's not like the fully clothed, nice sweatshirt mammoth. It's just point out little details or clip deals like that. That'll really draw people's attention to you. And then finally, as we bring it all into a closing, try to continue lying and tell everyone that you are super rich and that your wiener...
All right, and that I don't know if that was 5 minutes. I kind of lost track.
I just want to say, Levi, anybody that you told you were writing this book, if they listen to the podcast, man, they might know that you're not writing a book.
Well, I really am now, and this is all part of it.
This is going to be in the book?
Yeah.
Sweet.
I'm writing the book.
Here's the thing. Are you lying right now? Good stuff on that, man.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I've never thought about elephants that way before.
Yeah, well, they're gross. Just throwing it out there.
Well, thank you, Just-Levi, for sharing that with us.
Promiscuous.
And with that, I think we're going to just wrap it up here. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the show tonight. And what? Wait a second. What is that? You guys hear that? What is
Yes, power before me. Who are you? I am the Quiz Lord.
What do you want with us?
I have come from the kingdom of the mole people to reclaim what has been taken from us.
Yeah, you and 3 illegitimate children of mine have come for that.
Silence, mortal! I have taken your friend, the ninja.
No.
He will...
Give the ninja back to us.
Never! I will take him back to our realm, where I will sacrifice him before our great lizard god, and reclaim the title of Mole King.
I will battle you for his honor.
I will also take this battle.
I will battle.
Very well. Then I shall meet you in the realm of my choosing.
And what will it be, Quiz Lord?
Of course. A game of quiz! Now, everyone line up, and I will begin by asking several questions, and you will all answer them. And if your answers are not sufficient to my liking, I will take the ninja down to the subterranean realms of our kingdom, and I will strip him of his soul.
All right, Quiz Lord. We'll play your little game.
Yes. And now, keeping on theme with tonight's show, in the very first Nightmare on Elm Street movie, what big-name actor got his first movie role?
Oh.
Ding! Ding! I dinged in, Quiz Lord. Did you hear me ding in?
Danger! Johnny Depp! Blast! That is correct.
Good job, Danger. Good job.
I'm here to save Rick the Ninja.
Did Tim Burton make Nightmare on Elm Street?
No, I do believe it was still a Wes Craven film.
Oh.
Second question. This one not on topic.
You are devious.
What is the proper etymological term for a group of rhinoceros?
Ding! Rhinoceri.
You are incorrect. I banish you to the cursed realm of the wrong.
No, Danger!
Wally is not allowed to ding in on any further questions. The answer was crash. The proper term is crash of rhinos.
You devious cur.
How could you do this? I will revenge them. All my being. I'll probably only avenge them once, twice. Anything more than that is no.
And now to see if I can banish more of you. For the next question. In the movie Psycho, what substance did Alfred Hitchcock use to substitute for blood in a black and white film in the murder scene taking place in the shower?
Ding, 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 ding.
Dizzle.
Ketchup.
Incorrect.
God damn it.
You are banished to the circle of the wrong. And now Dizzle joins Danger in the circle of the wrong. The answer was chocolate syrup. And now, Levi, you will have to answer the questions on your own. Failure will result in the permanent loss of your friend Ninja.
Yeah, it's all the same.
What mysterious organization throughout American history has been rumored to be responsible for various conspiracies and rumors?
Freemasons.
Nah. You've won this question, Levi, but you still have my final riddle. And if you do not answer, then not only will you be banished to the circle of the wrong, but you will be tortured by flogs and whips. But you will never see your friend Ninja again. For I am the Quiz Lord. So, what word becomes shorter when you add 2 letters?
Short?
No.
I'm pretty sure you just put an E and an R at the end of short. Made it shorter. Like, no, hold on, let me get some paper. I'm gonna write this down for a second. Let me get a pen. Hold on. Quiz Lord, just wait.
No, I refuse. I refuse to be beaten this way.
No, they'll be there. Just let me, hold on, short, E, and an R. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Here, check it out. Right there.
Yes. I release your friends from the circle of the wrong.
Yeah, that's so cool. But what about that whipping thing you were mentioning earlier? Can we try, some more guesses? I'll just get it wrong.
Guys, that circle of the wrong thing, that was really cool.
Silence! The Quiz Lord will not handle this disobedience and insolence any longer. You may have beaten me this time, Dizzle, but I shall be back. I will not let this stand, no. And my revenge will neither be swift nor entertaining. As a matter of fact, I shall draw it out over years in such a subtle fashion that you will wonder whether the misery in your life is either manifest or the machinations of the Quiz Lord or some third thing. You've beaten me this time, but I shall be back. Ah!
And we'll be ready for you, Quiz Lord.
Time and time again, almost weekly, like repetitive or something.
Guys.
It's good to see you again, Mr. Ninja.
You defeated the Quiz Lord?
Barely.
Just barely.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I never got to go to that whip room, though. That seemed like a bummer.
Pretty cool.
Dude,
and you should have
freaking chained me to rocks.
And you should have seen this Quizlord guy. His head was enormous. It was huge. Like, unnaturally big. Almost had it like its own gravitational pull.
Or like his mom drank hard or something.
Anyway, with that, we will call an end to this week's episode of Red Herring Radio. I hope you had fun with us, like we had fun here doing the show tonight for you.
Right.
Please join us again in 2 weeks. We will be back with another installment of Red Herring Radio, where we will be bringing you interesting stories from around the world, interesting conspiracy, cryptids, aliens, UFO, all that fun stuff. So for Wally Danger Walberg, Rick the Ninja, the Natrix, and our special guest tonight,
Just-Levi.
This is your host, B-Dizzle. We'll see you next time on Red Herring Radio.